Well, that was Pierre Poilievre today calling on the feds to suspend the taxes on both the gas and diesel from Victoria Day to Labor Day. Now, as you heard in that clip as well, the Prime Minister didn't seem too interested in that proposal. So let's dig into this with our panel of MPs. Joining us now to discuss it more, Environment and Climate Change Parliamentary Secretary Adam Van Koeverden, Conservative Deputy Leader Melissa Lantsman, and the NDP's Natural Resources critic Charlie Angus. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Van Koeverden, let's start with you. Now, Pierre Poilievre is suggesting a pause to the price on carbon for all gas and diesel and those taxes related to it. Now, a pause isn't getting rid of it altogether. Why isn't your party open to that kind of relief for Canadian consumers?
Well, time and time again, what we've seen from the Conservative Party is that they're more interested in bumper sticker slogans than real solutions to fighting things like climate change. And it's incredibly ignorant timing as Canadians are being evacuated from their homes, as wildfires are now raging again across northern Alberta and elsewhere. These wildfire seasons are starting earlier. They're more intense, they're hotter, and they're evacuating more people from their homes. In fact, I read today that almost 50% of the evacuees from around the world as a result of wildfires in 2023 were Canadian. So this is a uniquely Canadian problem. Climate change is having a devastating impact on Canadians, our economy, our livelihoods, and the Conservatives have no solutions for the environment. They have no solutions for the economy. They have no solutions for affordability. And in fact, just like we saw on April 1st when Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, jacked up the price of fuel on Albertans by 4 cents. All the Conservatives are interested in doing is covering for oil and gas. It really begs the question, who needs an oil sands lobby when you have the Conservative Party of Canada?
Now, with respect, Mr. Van Koeverden, the Canadian Climate Institute report did say that industrial carbon tax is 3 times more effective than reducing emissions compared to a consumer carbon tax. So why not pause the consumer tax just for those 3 months of the summer while increasing the one on industry instead?
Well, the notion that we should be dialing back climate action at this point while we're finally on track to achieve our goals in 2026 and beyond with respect to our carbon emissions is respectfully wrong-headed. The Eco-Fiscal Commission and 300 independent economists have written to governments across Canada, very pointed, I should say, at Conservative politicians to ask them to dial back their anti-climate action rhetoric. And number 2, on their challenge to the critics' claim that carbon pricing drives up the cost of living and is a major cause of inflation, they very clearly say that is false. It's a false narrative to suggest that Canada's carbon pricing program drives up inflation. It does not. It is not adding to the financial challenges that Canadians are facing. We need to find real solutions to solve the affordability crisis and make sure that Canadians can afford their lives. But to suggest that it's climate action, which is driving up the price of and the cost of living, is a false narrative. So I'd encourage Conservatives from right across Canada to read what the 300 economists from Canada and many, many others are asking of them, which is to look at the facts and look at the fact that climate change is having a really devastating impact on Canadians, our economy, and their livelihoods, and that their rhetoric and their anti-climate action narrative is actually really, really harming Canadians and climate action around the world.
Ms. Lantsman, as you heard from Mr. Van Koeverden there, the Liberal pushback always seems to be on your party, saying that your leader hasn't presented an alternative to fight climate change. So how do you respond to that?
Look, the Liberal pushback isn't just on our party. It's on 70% of Canadians. It's on 7 premiers asking the Liberals to axe the carbon tax. And we'll see where Canadians think in a carbon tax election eventually. But what we want to see is a pause that is going to take 35.6 cents on average across the country off of the price of gas per liter. It's going to save families $670 at a time where families are squeezed, where gas, where groceries, where everything they buy, farmers, truckers, and everybody across the economy is struggling to get by after 9 years of this Prime Minister's wild spending. This is an ask from Conservatives. It's very simple. Pause it from Victoria Day to the end of the summer so that Canadians can vacation, so that they can afford groceries, so that they can afford the little things that they used to have in this summer before this Prime Minister. The notion that that this is an environmental plan is false. Canadians pay more for the carbon tax than they get back. It is a tax plan, and they would know that they're not even measuring 40 or 90. Sorry, they're not measuring 95% of their own reductions, and 49% of their measures they didn't even set implementation deadlines on. To call this an environment plan, it is a consumer carbon tax. It is a tax plan, and it's hurting Canadians. It's Canadians that are saying this, and it's us that is responding. So they can continue to tell Canadians that everything is fine and they've never had it so good. But this is what we are asking them to do, and we know they're capable of it because they had the carve out of their own plan in Atlantic Canada when they gave a break to Atlantic Canadians during the winter months because their own caucus revolted and told everybody that if they wanted a break, they should vote Liberal. I would remind Mr. Van Koeverden that his own Liberal leader in Ontario has backed away from the carbon tax in addition to 7 premiers, and she still couldn't win a by-election in Milton. So this is the ask of Canadians, and Conservatives are responding to that.
I take all of those points that you made, but at the same time, the question was, what about the plan that you are going to take to Canadians? You say you can't wait for a carbon tax election. Well, what plan will the Conservatives put in the window
the plan
to
would be,
fight
first
climate
of all,
change?
to axe the 23% increase from April and to axe the entire carbon tax. But we're going to green light green projects. And we've talked about it before. Rely on technology, carbon capture and storage, tidal energy in the East Coast, nuclear power. We're going to make sure that these things can get to market, and proponents of these projects are not leaving Canada because of the regulation that is imposed on them by the Liberals. You'll see the plan during the election. I've said it before. As much as we want to do it on the show, Mike, I think we'll wait till Canadians can make that decision in a carbon tax election. If the Liberals are so confident about their carbon tax, if they're telling Canadians that they've never had it better and that everything is so good, then they should call a carbon tax election.
Yeah, and I'll just push back on that for a second, Ms. Lantsman. I mean, the ratings on this show were through the roof. You would have so many people listening. I'm just kidding. Anyways, I'm not kidding. It's great ratings. Mr. Angus, I wanted to ask you, your leader says that he supports a price on pollution, but also vowed not to punish people who can't change how to heat their homes. Also, Laurel Collins, the environmental critic, has said that carbon pricing isn't the be-all and end-all. It doesn't really seem clear where your party sits anymore.
Well, I think the issue today, your top story really should be the wildfires. Instead, it's Pierre Poilievre doing stunts. I mean, for God's sakes, is he ever going to come up with a policy? Like I see him standing out there like this roadside huckster selling me Velvet Elvis paintings, telling me that they're going to go up in price if I trust him. The fact is our country is burning. It's burning in May. So we have a serious issue. The issue in terms of carbon pricing is that there are things that work. For example, the industrial tax on big emitters, which Pierre Poilievre said in the House doesn't exist. So he's either stupid or he's lying. Let's just be blunt. He says it doesn't exist. That will take 226 megatons out by 2030, which is the equivalent of the emissions of Ontario and Quebec. Is that enough? No, given the extent of the crisis we're facing. So we have to look at other options. New Democrats have always said affordability. We pushed to get the HST and even the carbon tax off home heating. Pierre Poilievre opposed that. When I was gassing up today in Northern Ontario, where people have to drive 200 and 300 kilometers to go to work, we were talking not about the price of gas. We were talking about the forest fires and how we hope to God they're not coming to us. But we pay an extra 22 cents from the gouging from big oil that happened, not from the carbon tax, but from their profits. They made $38 billion last year. You're never going to hear Pierre Poilievre say, hey, big oil shouldn't gouge you. You're never going to hear him say they're causing billions of dollars for insurance, for climate damage. So New Democrats are saying we actually have to move beyond this rock throwing and come up with a solution. That's something Pierre Poilievre is never going to do, not in a million years. Part of it is identifying the industrial big polluters, making them pay more, but recognizing that in an affordability crisis, things like taking the price off home heating is a reasonable factor. But what we can't do is backslide. And Pierre Poilievre's only solution is let me cut all costs for burning fossil fuels as Fort Mac is in evacuation, as Fort Nelson is. They don't give a damn that they're burning our planet. It's about getting these stupid images of Pierre Poilievre running around the country with his slogans and his little signs. If you're going to be prime minister, show up. Give us a plan for the climate. Give us a plan for the affordability. Tell us to wait till the election. That's like treating us like we're rubes at a country fair. It ain't going to happen.
Okay. I'm almost all out of time. Ms. Lantsman, I'm going to get you to respond to that because there was a lot that was put on the table there. If you can, in about 30 seconds.
Sure. For two people that talk about decorum in politics, they're sitting here, high-fiving each other on calling Pierre Poilievre names.
Just
That's
calling
not
the
going
fact.
to change.
Just calling a fact.
That is not going to change the fact that families cannot afford
He doesn't have a policy.
to heat, to house
He
themselves.
doesn't have a policy.
And it's
Just
not
give
going
us
to
a
change
policy.
the fact that Charlie Angus,
Okay,
who's
Mr. Angus,
speaking over me,
we're almost out of time, Mr. Angus.
yeah,
Just give
it
me a
doesn't change
policy.
the fact
Just a
that
policy,
Charlie has
please.
voted for every
Mike, if I
single
could.
carbon tax increase
Just a policy,
for the
please.
people
Mike,
of Timmins, and they will
please.
remember that if he ever goes there.
Please.
Mike, if I
You
could.
can't all
I-
talk
all
at the
day.
same time. Okay, sorry. Last word to Adam Van Koeverden, then we got to go.
Thanks, Mike. Look, Melissa Lantsman was up in the Yukon recently, and people walked out on her speech because what the Conservatives are doing is they're using public money to travel around the country and go to speeches and then use those opportunities to stump for the Conservative Party. Look, I went kayaking today, and I picked up one of these. This is a lid from Tim Hortons. They're always floating in lakes and rivers across the country, and Tim Hortons did something really noble. They said, we're going to find a solution to this. We're going to find a plant-based lid that works well and that reduces plastic pollution. What the Conservatives say? They say we should boycott Tim Hortons because they're too woke to go and get a coffee at. I applaud Tim Hortons in their climate action, and at least trying to find a solution to all the plastic pollution. And like I said, who needs an oil and gas lobby when you got the Conservative Party of Canada?
The planet is burning.
Okay,
Come on,
we're going to
guys.
have to
Let's
leave it
be
right
real.
there, and we cannot wait for all of you to get back to Ottawa next week because it seems like you're going to be bringing props to every show. Charlie Angus, Adam Van Koeverden, and Melissa Lantsman, thank you all for being on Power Play. We're going to